Whitney Houston grew up in the spotlight. Her mom, a renowned background singer, traveled the world performing with the biggest names in music. Yet, while her mom chased her career, when Whitney was a young girl, along with her siblings, they were cared for by a variety of different families. Her brother once shared how he cried with Whitney every time her mom had to leave to go off to work. Following in her mom's footsteps, Whitney became a professional singer, but her success came with immense pressure. Her mom had big dreams for her, pushing her into the limelight to achieve what she never ended up. Now, Whitney's parents divorced, and her father stepped in as her career was about to take off, not just returning as her dad, but as her manager. He saw her fame as his ticket to make it. So both parents were really counting on Whitney to bring through the dreams that they weren't able to do in their adult life. Whitney felt the weight of being the one her entire family counted on. She put her family on the payroll, siblings, cousins, all kinds of different people. And even when they weren't working, she supported them through all of her career's highs and lows. As you can imagine, all of this pressure took its toll. Then she married Bobby Brown, and her marriage to him was often in the spotlight. Their marriage seemed to be heavily scrutinized by the media, often labeled as volatile. The media often portrayed Bobby as the bad influence, but Whitney herself admitted she had her own struggles with addiction even before they met. Let's talk about addiction for a moment and where it starts, because it's rarely just about the substances. For many people, addiction has deep roots in the experience of having a parent who is physically or emotionally missing. So, Whitney's mom, Sissy, was an incredible singer who traveled the world performing, but she was out chasing her dreams, leaving Whitney and her siblings behind, well cared for by other families, but mom and dad were missing. When a parent isn't there, often we don't learn how to manage difficult emotions, and it tends to be that we turn to something else to numb the pain later on. For Whitney, the pressure of being the one in the limelight, really creating all the income for her entire family, and the weight of her unmet emotional needs from childhood likely made her much more vulnerable to addiction. And then there's the bigger picture, the family patterns that we inherit. Whitney's father, for example, used her fame to support himself and ended up mismanaging her finances. There's a lot of emotional baggage to carry. When your family leans on you in unhealthy ways, it can amplify some of the feelings like, I have to hold everything together, or I just can't let anybody down. And when you're already stretched thin emotionally, addiction can feel like the only escape. This isn't just a video about Whitney Houston, it's about understanding addiction differently. This is not a moral failing or lack of willpower. It's much more a response to pain and patterns that run deeper than we realize. Whitney's story shows us how those early wounds, like a missing parent, can ripple through someone's life. Now, if you think this video can help someone you know, please pass it along. If you're getting value from what I'm sharing, subscribe. And if you'd like to speak with me about addiction challenges or something that's going on in your relationship or family dynamics, it's simple. Inside the description, you'll find a link to my calendar for a complimentary conversation to understand how the work that I do might be able to support you. Now, if we circle back to Whitney Houston's relationship challenges, Bobby Brown was a former member of the New Edition, and he also had a successful solo career. But he was really used to being in the spotlight. When Whitney's superstar status eclipsed his, I guess it fueled a lot of tension in their relationship and a competition that seemed to overshadow the love that they shared. Whitney admitted in interviews that their drug use became a shared escape from the pressures of fame and all the complexities in their life. And so they'd isolate, from family, from friends, all kinds of healthier influences, and it deepened their dependence on each other and their addiction. Their tumultuous marriage and public disputes truly affected their daughter, who was often caught in the middle of that chaos. Whitney and Bobby's challenges with addiction and fame, how couldn't they have shaped their daughter, Bobbi Kristina? She had her own struggles with substance abuse. Their daughter was left in the care of family members while they traveled, while they performed, or isolated themselves with drug use, leaving Bobbi Kristina in a very similar situation to how Whitney likely felt while her mom was traveling for work for so much of her childhood. Whitney made multiple attempts to try to overcome her addiction, to really set her personal life on a better track. She loved her daughter so deeply. She sought treatment for addiction multiple times and spoke openly about wanting to overcome her struggles. Whitney Houston was just 48 years old when she died. I'm sure it was an accumulation of the family expectations, all of the demands of fame, and the struggles in her personal relationship. All of this added up, and the outcome was her tragic passing when she was so young. Sadly, the heartbreak didn't stop there. Her daughter, Bobby, faced the same pressures and challenges, and her life ended in a similar tragic way, just 3 years after her mom died. Bobbi Kristina grew up in the glare of the spotlight, born into a family where fame was both a blessing and a curse. She was just a child when her parents' marriage and all of their personal struggles played out in front of the entire world. Imagine trying to navigate your own identity while living under the weight of all of these public expectations and family turmoil. Bobby's struggles with fame and grief and family dynamics ultimately mirrored her mother's in heartbreaking ways. Bobbi Kristina turned to substances to cope as well, and in 2015, she passed away. She was just 22, drowning in a bathtub with drugs in her system, an eerie echo of her mother's death. Bobby's story is a stark reminder of how generational patterns can carry out when emotional wounds go unhealed. These tragedies highlight how unresolved dynamics like grief, addiction, unmet emotional needs, a missing parent in our childhood can span generations. Whitney's story, along with her daughter Bobby's, shows us why it's important to understand and address the patterns that we inherit before they take root in the next generation. Join us next week. We'll be diving into stories like this one, exploring how childhood experiences influenced legendary performers, fueled by unique family dynamics, and reveal often overlooked humanity behind the spotlight. Subscribe to join us as we uncover the untold stories and reveal how the family imprint is often the invisible thread connecting us all. Thanks for listening.